When you face death, you never know how much you're alive until you face death.
You know what's worse than being sentenced to death, waiting to die. These group of individuals count down their final days, individuals who have been sentenced to the ultimate punishment for the most grievous of crimes.
I was just reacting. Even when they opened the door, I just reacted. I fired 2 shots.
This video exposes the routines, rituals, and regulations that govern the last moments of those condemned to death. Daily life on death row. Most of us can't even begin to comprehend the isolation and idleness that death row prisoners endure day in and day out. Imagine spending 22 to 24 hours a day, locked alone in a tiny cell, with minimal human contact or interaction. This is the stark reality for thousands of inmates across the United States.
Being on death row, you're confined to your cell 20 hours out of the day.
These cells, ranging from a mere 36 to 100 square feet, are often no larger than an average bathroom. Inside, prisoners are confined to a steel bed or concrete slab, a steel toilet, and a small writing table. It's a bare and cramped existence, devoid of any comfort or personal space. Hygiene is a basic necessity, and death row inmates are allowed to shower every other day. However, the majority of their existence is spent within the confines of their cells, where they are subjected to the harsh reality of their impending doom. Security is of utmost importance, and inmates are counted at least once an hour to ensure their presence. Handcuffed and escorted, they wear restraints at all times, except within their cells, the exercise yard, or the shower. Meals are delivered through a slot in the door, with prisoners eating alone in their cells. The majority of their medical and mental health care is also provided through these slots, leaving little opportunity for face-to-face contact with healthcare providers. The lack of human interaction is staggering. For many death row prisoners, their only interactions with other human beings are brief encounters with corrections officers during routine checks. These interactions are often limited to basic exchanges, further deepening the sense of isolation and loneliness. Communication with the outside world is limited, but not entirely severed. Inmates are permitted to receive mail on a daily basis, except on holidays and weekends. Within their cells, they are allowed to have snacks, radios, and 13-inch televisions. However, the luxuries of cable television and air conditioning are denied to them. They are forbidden from congregating with other inmates in a common room, but they can watch church services on closed-circuit television, a small solace in their otherwise desolate existence. As a visual marker of their fate, death row inmates wear distinctive clothing that sets them apart from regular inmates. They don orange t-shirts, a stark contrast to the blue-colored pants worn by their fellow prisoners. These garments serve as a constant reminder of their impending doom, a visual representation of their separation from the rest of the incarcerated population. The limited visitation privileges granted to death row prisoners are also subject to severe constraints. In fact, 67% of states mandate no-contact visitation, meaning that prisoners are unable to touch or hug their family members or loved ones. All interactions during family visits occur while the prisoner is behind a barrier, and it's not uncommon for prisoners to be in restraints during these visits. Enforced idleness is another aspect of life on death row. The overwhelming majority of states do not allow death row prisoners to have access to work or employment opportunities, nor do they provide access to educational or vocational programming. Exercise is also severely limited, with 81% of states allowing only 1 hour or less of exercise daily. And even then, prisoners are often confined to a small cage, pen, or cell for their exercise time. Fresh air and sunshine are luxuries that many death row prisoners are deprived of for years on end. The lack of movement, exercise, and exposure to natural light takes a toll on their physical and mental health, further exacerbating the already dire conditions they face. The extreme isolation and enforced idleness experienced by death row prisoners are just the tip of the iceberg. In the next section, we will explore the mental and emotional toll that these conditions inflict, as well as the potential long-term effects on the prisoner's well-being. Imagine spending years, and even decades, locked in a tiny cell with minimal human contact or interaction. The effects of such extreme isolation are profound and can be likened to psychological torture. Death row prisoners are subjected to a constant state of uncertainty and fear, living day in and day out with the threat of execution hanging over them. This psychological burden takes a heavy toll on their mental well-being, leading to anxiety, depression, and even psychosis. The lack of social interaction and meaningful relationships further exacerbates the prisoner's mental anguish. Human beings are social creatures, and the absence of connection and support can lead to a sense of hopelessness and despair. In their isolated cells, prisoners are left alone with their thoughts, cells, haunted by the memories of their crimes and the weight of their impending fate. The mind can become a prison within a prison as they grapple with guilt, remorse, and the constant reminder of their impending mortality. The psychological distress experienced by death row prisoners often manifests in self-destructive behaviors. Some prisoners resort to self-harm as a desperate cry for help or as a way to regain a sense of control over their lives. The scars they bear are a testament to the deep emotional pain they endure. While some prisons provide mental health care to death row prisoners, the limited resources and the nature of their confinement make it challenging to adequately address their mental health needs. The clinical effects of extreme isolation can be similar to those of physical torture, further highlighting the inhumanity of these conditions. Despite the immense challenges they face, some death row prisoners find solace and a sense of purpose through creative outlets. Art, writing, and other forms of expression become a lifeline, allowing them to channel their emotions and find a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. Advocates and organizations dedicated to the well-being of death row prisoners play a crucial role in providing support and fighting for their rights. These advocates recognize the inherent cruelty of prolonged isolation and work tirelessly to bring attention to the mental and emotional suffering endured by those on death row. Coping mechanisms and reflections. Hustling as a positive coping mechanism. In the bleak and confined world of death row, where hope seems to wither away, a surprising phenomenon emerges: hustling. For many inmates, hustling becomes a lifeline, a means of survival, and a positive coping mechanism that provides a sense of efficacy and control over their environment. Hustling on death row involves the selling of illegal or contraband goods and services, allowing inmates to obtain items that are otherwise unattainable within the confines of their cells. It serves as a medium of exchange, enabling them to acquire the amenities of life that make their existence just a little more comfortable. But hustling is not merely about acquiring material goods. It represents a form of rebellion, a way for inmates to beat the man and assert their autonomy within a system that seeks to strip them of their freedom. It gives them a sense of power and control over their circumstances, even in the face of impending doom. Through hustling, inmates develop a belief in their ability to accomplish tasks and achieve desired outcomes. They see their actions as purposeful and meaningful rather than attributing events to random chance or fate. This internal locus of control empowers them to navigate their environment and make choices that can improve their living conditions. By finding ways to maximize their choices and exert control over outcomes, inmates develop valuable skills in negotiation, resourcefulness, and problem solving. They become adept at working towards their desired ends, which often involve improving their immediate surroundings and quality of life. The positive effects of hustling extend beyond the individual inmate. As they learn to cope better with the stresses of imprisonment, conflicts with correctional officers and fellow inmates are reduced. This leads to better emotional and psychological adjustments, making them less susceptible to anxiety and depression. In turn, these improved coping mechanisms may result in greater participation in institutionally sanctioned activities and increased obedience to prison policies. By creating a niche for themselves through hustling, inmates are able to fashion a life of sorts within the prison walls, enhancing their ability to negotiate the stresses that concern them the most. While safety remains a paramount concern for the public, correctional staff, and fellow inmates, the actions of those on death row ultimately revolve around survival while awaiting their inevitable fate. Hustling becomes a means to that end, allowing them to navigate the challenges of prison life and find a sense of purpose amidst the uncertainty. The world of hustling on death row is a complex and fascinating one, where inmates defy the system and find solace in their resourcefulness. It is a coping mechanism that not only enables survival, but also shapes the emotional and psychological well-being of those facing the harshest of circumstances. Another coping mechanism among death row inmates is religious coping. With a profound impact of faith and spirituality, their lives show a glimmer of hope in the face of impending death. Religious coping mechanisms among death row inmates. In the darkest corners of death row, where despair looms large, a glimmer of hope emerges through the power of faith and spirituality. For many inmates, religious coping becomes a lifeline, offering solace, meaning, and a secure relationship with a higher power. Religious coping can be divided into two main categories: positive religious coping and negative religious coping. Positive religious coping involves expressing spirituality, finding meaning in life, and cultivating a secure relationship with a supernatural being. Positive religious coping is generally optimistic, providing a framework for understanding and accepting one's fate, even in the face of impending death. It offers a sense of purpose and guidance, allowing inmates to find comfort and hope amidst their dire circumstances. Research has shown that positive religious coping is negatively related to depression motivation and positively related to life satisfaction among death row inmates. It serves as a powerful tool for alleviating emotional distress and enhancing overall well-being. By expressing their spirituality and cultivating a secure relationship with a higher power, inmates can find a sense of peace and acceptance. This enables them to navigate the challenges of their daily lives with a renewed sense of purpose and resilience. Faith becomes a guiding force, providing inmates with a source of comfort and strength as they confront the thought of their mortality. It offers a sense of transcendence, allowing them to transcend the confines of their physical existence and connect with something greater. Furthermore, positive religious coping helps inmates cope with accumulating events and the challenges of their environment. It acts as a buffer against depression, allowing them to maintain a more positive outlook on life despite their circumstances. While the influence of faith may be limited to those coping with death or illness, it remains a powerful coping strategy for death row inmates. It provides them with a sense of hope, purpose, and a renewed perspective on life. The impact of positive religious coping extends beyond the individual inmate. It fosters a sense of community and support among inmates who share similar beliefs. Through religious activities and discussions, they find solace in their shared experiences and provide each other with emotional support. Religious coping mechanisms offer a profound source of comfort and hope for death row inmates. Positive religious coping allows them to find meaning, acceptance, and a secure relationship with a higher power. It serves as a powerful tool for alleviating emotional distress and enhancing overall well-being. Preparation for execution. From the carefully orchestrated drive to the death house, where every precaution is taken to prevent escape, to the haunting last meal and the somber last walk, the final moments leading up to execution are shrouded in a chilling atmosphere of precision and meticulous planning. At 8 p.m. on the day before the execution, the prisoner is moved from their cell on death row to the place of execution, known as the death house. This journey is not taken lightly, as it presents one of the biggest risks for the prisoner to escape. The preparations begin as the prisoner is handcuffed and thoroughly searched, ensuring they have no weapons or means to take their own life. Guards are not only concerned about the safety of others, but also the prisoner's desperation. Upon arrival at the death house, the prisoner is taken from the car and led into the building. This moment marks the last time they will ever see daylight. The weight of their impending fate hangs heavy in the air as they step into the confines of the death house, where their final hours will unfold. Inside the death house, the prisoner is assigned their cell. These cells are equipped with basic amenities, including a bed, a toilet, a desk, and a shower. The cells are strategically located close to the execution chamber, ensuring a seamless transition when the time comes. The prisoner is now constantly watched, as this is the time when many may be overwhelmed by the desire to take their own life. We are acutely aware of the heightened risk during this period. Our duty is to ensure the safety and well-being of the prisoner until their execution, explains one of the guards who has witnessed this process multiple times. At 3 a.m., most prisoners on their final day alive are awakened. This early wake-up call allows time for any last-minute legal issues or petitions for a stay of execution to be addressed. The hours leading up to the execution are crucial, and the prisoner is allowed to spend time with loved ones, speak to the chaplain, and make final phone calls. The final hours are often filled with a mix of emotions. Many prisoners express their fears and anxieties, sharing their thoughts and seeking solace in their faith, reveals the chaplain, who provides spiritual guidance during this challenging time. The prisoner is provided with a desk in their cell, allowing them to write down their thoughts or letters if they wish. They are also allowed to make several final phone calls, saying their last goodbyes to those they hold dear. The telephone numbers of their chosen contacts must be written down, and a guard dials the numbers on their behalf. It's a solemn moment when they make those final calls. We witness the raw emotions and farewells that are exchanged. It's a heartbreaking reminder of the gravity of the situation, shares one of the guards who has been present during these poignant moments. From 8 a.m. on the day of the execution, all visitors are banned from the death house. The only people the prisoner will come into contact with until their execution are the chaplain and the guards. This isolation is a stark reminder of the imminent finality of their fate. Condemned men and women often express their fear of death during this time. They share their regrets, their hopes for forgiveness, and their their desire for peace, reveals the chaplain, who provides spiritual support during these final hours. Meanwhile, in the execution chamber, the staff begins to test the equipment that will be used to end the prisoner's life. Straps on the gurney are meticulously checked to ensure they can securely hold the prisoner. The phone linking the chamber to the governor's office is also tested, ensuring that any last-minute reprieve can be communicated effectively. If an electric chair is to be used, all the electrical components are thoroughly tested to ensure they are in proper working order. The execution chamber becomes a place of eerie anticipation as the staff prepares for the solemn task that lies ahead. Despite it still being morning, the prisoner has now been awake for several hours, and it's time for their final meal. However, contrary to popular myths, this meal is not extravagant. Instead, the prisoner is served a simple prison meal. While it may not be a lavish feast, it holds significant meaning for the prisoner, as it is often the first meal they have been able to choose for themselves in years. We strive to accommodate the prisoner's final meal requests within the allocated budget. It's a small gesture of humanity amidst the solemnity of the situation, shares one of the guards responsible for ensuring the prisoner's last meal is prepared. The final meal is a moment for the prisoner to reflect on their tastes and desires, perhaps finding solace or a sense of normalcy in this small act of choice. It is a poignant reminder of their humanity in the face of their impending fate. For prisoners who are to be executed by the electric chair, the remaining hours leading up to the execution are marked by a symbolic act, the shaving of their heads. This is done to ensure that the electrical current can pass easily through the inmate's body during the execution process. After the head is shaved, the prisoner is given additional time with the chaplain, providing an opportunity for spiritual guidance and support during these final moments. The chaplain offers comfort and reassurance, helping the prisoners find peace, if possible, in the face of their impending demise. As the clock ticks closer to the execution, the prisoner is given a new prison uniform upon entering the death house. This uniform is smarter than their usual prison attire, symbolizing the solemnity of the occasion. However, before they can put on their death uniform, all prisoners must have a shower, ensuring they are clean and prepared for the execution. The shower is a final act of dignity and respect before the execution. It is a moment for the prisoner to cleanse themselves physically and mentally, explains one of the guards who has witnessed this process numerous times. Following the shower, the prisoner is allowed to change into their death uniform. With this final act of dressing, the reality of their imminent execution becomes even more palpable. The prisoner's identity is now fully intertwined with their impending fate. The final meal, often a subject of fascination, is not a grand feast, but a simple offering. Prisoners can choose what they would like for their last meal within the allocated budget. Contrary to popular myths, there are limits to how much can be spent, with some states allowing only a modest amount. This meal holds deep significance for the prisoner, as it is often the last opportunity for them to exercise choice and control over their own lives. The final meal is a moment of reflection and contemplation. It is a time for the prisoner to savor their chosen flavors and perhaps find a moment of solace in the midst of their impending fate, shares one of the guards who has witnessed these final meals. At 5 p.m., the atmosphere surrounding the execution takes a somber turn as the designated witnesses begin to arrive. These witnesses play a crucial role in observing and documenting the final moments of the condemned individual's life. The witnesses can include a diverse range of individuals, such as journalists, members of the victim's family, the condemned's loved ones, or even total strangers. Their presence serves as a testament to the transparency and accountability of the execution process. Members of the victim's family may also be present as witnesses, seeking closure and a sense of justice for the harm inflicted upon their loved ones. Their presence serves as a reminder of the impact of the crime and the lasting pain experienced by those left behind. For them, witnessing the execution may provide a sense of closure or a form of catharsis. Between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m., a solemn and poignant moment unfolds as the condemned prisoner embarks on their last walk. This short journey from their cell in the death house to the execution chamber is laden with emotions, preparations, and a profound sense of finality. It is a walk that carries the weight of a lifetime and the knowledge that there will be no reprieve. As the prisoner enters the execution chamber, their eyes are inevitably drawn to the apparatus that awaits them. Whether it be the gurney or the electric chair, this sight serves as a stark reminder of the imminent end. It is a moment of profound symbolism, where the machinery of death looms was large, casting a chilling shadow over the room. As the minutes tick by, the curtains between the execution chamber and the witness room are drawn, providing a sense of privacy for the condemned. This is the time when the prisoner is allowed to make their final statements. However, it's important to note that not all states allow for extended time or any time at all for these statements. Some states grant only a couple of minutes, while others may only allow inmates a written statement. In such cases, the time for talking is done, and the prisoner must find solace in their thoughts and reflections. Finally, at the appointed time of execution, the chaplain lays their hand on the prisoner, signifying the end of their life. It is a moment of solemnity and closure, where the condemned individual takes their last breath and their journey comes to a definitive end. Introduction to death row. The first established death penalty laws date as far back as the 18th century BC in the Code of King Hammurabi of Babylon. This ancient code codified the death penalty for 25 different crimes, ranging from murder to theft. The severity of the punishments reflected the belief in retributive justice, where the punishment was meant to match the crime. The death penalty was not limited to Babylon alone. The 14th century BC's Hittite Code, the 7th century BC's Draconian Code of Athens, and the 5th century BC's Roman Law of the 12 Tablets all included provisions for capital punishment. These ancient societies carried out executions through various gruesome methods, including crucifixion, drowning, beating to death, burning alive, and impalement. As we move forward in history, we find that the 10th century AD marked a significant shift in the preferred method of execution in Britain. Hanging became the usual means of carrying out the death penalty. However, this trend was not consistent throughout history. In the following century, under the reign of William the Conqueror, a notable change occurred. Persons were no longer hanged or executed for any crime, except in times of war. However, this trend did not last long. In the 16th century, under the reign of Henry VIII, the death penalty saw a resurgence in Britain. It is estimated that as many as 72,000 people were executed during this time. The methods of execution were brutal and horrifying, including boiling, burning at the stake, hanging, beheading, and drawing and quartering. Executions were carried out for a wide range of capital offenses, some of which may shock us today. Marrying a Jew, not confessing to a crime, and treason were among the crimes that warranted the ultimate punishment. The number of capital crimes in Britain continued to rise throughout the next 2 centuries. By the 1700s, an astonishing 222 crimes were punishable by death, including seemingly trivial offenses such as stealing, cutting down a tree, and robbing a rabbit warren. The severity of the death penalty led to a significant issue. Many juries were reluctant to convict defendants if the offense was not considered serious enough to warrant such a severe punishment. This growing concern eventually led to reforms in Britain's death penalty system. From 1823 to 1837, the death penalty was eliminated for over 100 of the 222 crimes that were previously punishable by death. These reforms aimed to bring a sense of proportionality and fairness to the justice system. When European settlers arrived in the New World, they brought with them the practice of capital punishment. The first recorded execution in the American colonies took place in 1608 in the Jamestown colony of Virginia. Captain George Kendall was executed for being a spy for Spain, marking the beginning of a long and contentious history of the death penalty in America. In 1612, Virginia Governor Sir Thomas Dale enacted the divine, moral, and martial laws, which provided the death penalty for even minor offenses. Stealing grapes, killing chickens, and trading with Native Americans were among the acts that could lead to a sentence of death. Laws regarding the death penalty varied from colony to colony. The Massachusetts Bay Colony conducted its first execution in 1630, even though the capital laws of New England did not go into effect until later. The New York colony instituted the Duke's Laws of 1665, which made offenses such as striking one's parents or denying the true God punishable by death. As the American colonies grew, so did the use of the death penalty. By the time of the American Revolution, all 13 colonies had laws that allowed for capital punishment. However, the methods of execution varied. Hanging was the most common method, but some colonies also employed methods such as firing squads and even burning at the stake. The United States Constitution, ratified in 1788, did not explicitly address the death penalty. However, the Eighth Amendment, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment, has been at the center of many debates surrounding capital punishment. In the early years of the United States, the death penalty continued to be widely used. However, as the country expanded and societal attitudes shifted, there were calls for reform. In the mid-19th century, several states began to limit the use of the death penalty to specific crimes, such as murder. The 20th century brought significant changes changes to the death penalty landscape in America. In 1972, the landmark Supreme Court case, Furman v. Georgia, temporarily halted all executions in the United States. The court ruled that the death penalty, as it was, being applied at the time, violated the Eighth Amendment's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. Following the Furman decision, many states reformed their death penalty laws to address the concerns raised by the court. In 1976, the Supreme Court case, Gregg v. Georgia, reinstated the death penalty, establishing a new framework that allowed for its use under certain circumstances. Since then, the death penalty has remained a contentious issue in America. Some states have abolished capital punishment, while others continue to carry out executions. The methods of execution have also evolved, with lethal injection becoming the most common method used today. The death penalty in America continues to be a topic of intense debate, with arguments centered around its constitutionality, fairness, and effectiveness as a deterrent. The complex history and ongoing discussions surrounding capital punishment highlight the profound moral and ethical questions that society grapples with. The concept of death row as we know it today can be traced back to the late 19th century, with its first documented appearance in print in 1894. The Denver newspaper Rocky Mountain News referred to an inmate occupying a cell on death row at Colorado's Cannon City Penitentiary. Little did they know that this term would become synonymous with the most notorious criminals in American history. However, it was not until the trial and sentencing of Giuseppe Zangara in 1933 that death row truly entered the public consciousness. Zangara, a 32-year-old unemployed bricklayer from New Jersey, attempted to assassinate President Franklin D. Roosevelt on February 15, 1933, during a public event in Miami. While Roosevelt miraculously escaped unharmed, the same could not be said for Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak, who was accompanying the president. Tragically, Cermak was shot and succumbed to his injuries a few days later. Zangara, having pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, was swiftly sentenced to death. This high-profile case brought the issue of capital punishment to the forefront of national conversation. It also sheds light on the legal procedures and practices surrounding death row inmates. Florida law at the time stipulated that prisoners awaiting execution were not permitted to share cell space with other inmates. When Zangara was sentenced, the prison where he was supposed to be held already had a death cell occupied by another man convicted of murder. This presented a logistical challenge for prison officials, who had to find a solution to accommodate both inmates. Consequently, the waiting area for death row inmates expanded from a single death cell to a designated section known as death row. This expansion allowed for the segregation of death row inmates from the general prison population, ensuring that they were kept separate until their scheduled execution. Over the years, death row has evolved into a highly regulated and secure area within correctional facilities. Inmates on death row are subject to strict protocols and heightened security measures. They are confined to their cells for the majority of the day, with limited opportunities for social interaction or recreational activities. The history of death row in the United States is not without its controversies. Critics argue that the death penalty is a violation of human rights and that it fails to serve as an effective deterrent to crime. They point to cases of wrongful convictions and the potential for irreparable harm to innocent individuals. Despite these concerns, the use of the death penalty has persisted in some states. As of 2023, more than 2,300 inmates were on death row across the United States. While 24 states have abolished the death penalty, others continue to carry out executions, albeit at a significantly reduced rate compared to previous decades. For more content like this, click on the videos on your screen now.